Chapter 9. My Mountain Adventure. Max, are you ready? We're leaving in 5 minutes. Mom's voice echoed through the house as I frantically searched for my hat. It wasn't like I wasn't excited. I was super excited. Today was the big day. My family and I were heading on a mountain adventure, far away from our usual ocean view, and I could barely contain my excitement. My 2 little brothers, Jack and Leo, were already waiting by the door, bouncing up and down, ready to go. Dad was outside, packing the car, double-checking everything. He always made sure we had all the gear we needed. "Max, you've got everything?" Dad asked as I finally found my hat and dashed to the car. "Yup, I'm ready," I said, hopping into the back seat next to Jack and Leo. I couldn't wait to trade the ocean waves for towering mountain peaks. The drive felt like it took forever. We left our house near the beach early in the morning, but as the hours dragged on, the landscape outside the window began to change. First, the sandy beaches disappeared, replaced by rolling hills, and then the trees got taller and thicker. It was weird to see so much green after being used to the blue of the ocean. "How much longer, Dad?" I asked after what felt like a million years on the road. "We're almost there, Max," Dad replied, glancing at the GPS. "Just a little more, and you'll see the mountains." And he was right. A little while later, we rounded a corner, and there they were, giant mountains stretching up into the clouds. My heart skipped a beat. We were really going to the top of those. "Whoa, they're huge!" Jack shouted, pressing his face against the window. "Are we climbing those?" Leo asked, his eyes wide with excitement. "Yup," Dad said. "We're heading to the highest point. From there, you'll be able to see everything around us. It's going to be awesome." I could hardly wait. By the time we got to the base of the mountain, the weather had changed. It had been a sunny drive, but now thick clouds hung low in the sky, and a light rain started to fall. "Oh, it's raining," I said, looking out the window as we parked. "Don't worry," Dad said confidently. "We'll get above the clouds once we start climbing. You'll see." We grabbed our rain jackets and packed some snacks in our backpacks. The trail we were taking looked pretty steep, and I could already see people climbing up it, all heading in the same direction. Some people were even coming down with huge smiles on their faces, so I knew it had to be good. "Do you think we'll make it to the top?" Leo asked, holding Mom's hand. "Of course we will," Mom said, ruffling his hair. "Just take it one step at a time, and we'll get there together." With that, we started our hike up the mountain. Let me tell you, the trail wasn't easy. It was steep, and after just a few minutes my legs were already feeling it. There were benches along the way, but they were few and far between, so we had to keep going most of the time. I saw other families taking breaks, panting and rubbing their sore legs, and I could totally relate. We passed a few people who were coming down from the top, laughing and chatting as they made their way back. They made it look so easy. "They've already been to the top," Dad said as we passed by. "That'll be us soon." I wondered what the top looked like. Could we really see everything from up there? Jack had already asked a few times if we'd be able to see the entire world, but Dad just chuckled and said, "Maybe not the whole world, but we'll see for miles." We kept climbing, and just as Dad had said, the rain started to clear. We were actually climbing above the clouds. I looked back, and there was this sea of white below us, like fluffy cotton candy, with only the tips of trees and hills poking through. It was amazing. "Wow, look at that!" I pointed, and everyone stopped to take it in. "I told you the weather would clear up once we got higher," Dad said with a smile. "Yeah, but I didn't think it'd be this cool," I said, feeling the excitement rush back. When we finally reached the top, it was everything I hoped it would be. And more. I mean, you could see everything. Rolling hills, rivers, valleys, and even the tops of other mountains. The view stretched for miles, and Dad pointed out other states in the distance. The air was chilly, even though the sun was shining, but it felt good after the climb. "This was totally worth it," I said, standing at the edge, looking out at the world below. "See those mountains over there?" Dad said, pointing far away. "Those are in a whole other state." "Can we go there next time?" Jack asked, his eyes wide with wonder. "We'll see," Mom said, laughing as she pulled out her camera to take some pictures. It felt like we were on top of the world. After hanging out at the summit for a while, we decided it was time to head back down. That's when Dad found something interesting. "Hey, there's another way down," he said, showing Mom the trail map on his phone. "It's a longer trail, but it's not paved. It goes through the forest instead." "A forest trail?" I asked, perking up. The idea of walking through the woods sounded a lot cooler than going back down the same crowded path we came up on. "It's a bit more challenging," Dad said, "and there won't be any benches, but it'll be just us and nature." "Let's do it," Mom said, looking excited. "I'd love to walk through the forest." "Are you sure?" Dad asked, looking at Leo and Jack. "It's going to be harder than the paved trail." "We can do it," Jack said, puffing out his chest. Leo nodded along, not wanting to be left out. So, with the decision made, we left the busy paved trail behind and headed into the forest. The forest trail was completely different. The trees were tall, and their branches blocked out most of the sunlight, making the air feel cooler. The path was narrow and winding, with rocks and roots sticking out everywhere. There weren't any other hikers around, just us, surrounded by nature. "This is way better," I said, running a few steps ahead to check out the trail. "Careful, Max," Mom called. "It's easy to trip over those roots." She wasn't kidding. The trail was tricky. We had to watch our step the whole time. But it was worth it. The smell of the pine trees, the sound of birds chirping, and the feeling of being alone in the woods made it feel like a real adventure. "I'm glad we chose this path," Mom said, smiling at Dad. "It's so peaceful out here." "Yeah," I agreed. "No more crowds, just us." We walked for what felt like hours, the path getting steeper and rockier the further we went. My legs were starting to feel like jelly, and I could tell Jack and Leo were getting tired too. Jack kept asking, "Are we almost there?" Every 5 minutes, and Dad would check the GPS on his phone and say, "Almost." Even though I was tired, I was still glad we took this trail. It was tougher, sure, but it was also more fun. The forest felt like our own little world, far away from everything else. Finally, after what felt like forever, we rounded a bend, and there it was in the parking lot where we had started our adventure that morning. "Finally!" Leo exclaimed, flopping onto the ground in relief. "We did it!" Dad said, grinning as he high-fived Jack and me. "We took the harder path, but it was worth it." I nodded, feeling proud. Sure, the paved path would have been easier, but we had chosen the adventure, and it had paid off. We had the forest all to ourselves, and it had been awesome. As we climbed into the car, tired but happy, I looked out at the mountains one last time. The sun was starting to set, casting a golden glow over the peaks. "That was the best adventure ever," I said, and I meant it. By the time we got home, it was dark, and I was exhausted, but I couldn't stop thinking about the mountain adventure. We had taken the harder path, and it had been more challenging than I expected, but it was worth every step. I learned that sometimes the road less traveled gives you the best experiences. And now, I couldn't wait for our next family adventure.